Folks, the Cardi B and Stefon Diggs situation just twisted itself into a brand new shape. And nobody is saying the quiet part out loud. Cardi B is back on a live stream swinging at bloggers over domestic violence whispers. She is rewriting the Christmas storyline like a network rerun, and Stefon Diggs, the man she allegedly just walked away from, suddenly decided to drop a geo-tagged pin on Harlem like a digital love letter. This is not a clean break. This is a slow-motion reconciliation campaign dressed up as a breakup tour. And the receipts are stacking up fast. Let me unpack this properly because there are at least 4 moving pieces, and every single one of them tells you something different about where she is really at, where he is really pointing his compass, and why the same old offset shadow keeps creeping in through the back door. Listen, this is the kind of soap opera that does not end in January. This rolls all the way into festival season, and by the time her tour rehearsals hit 12 hours a day, the whole thing will look completely different. So let me set the table. First moving piece, the domestic violence claim that she is now publicly stomping out. Second moving piece, the Christmas story she is suddenly retelling as if the original outrage was about something it was never actually about. Third moving piece, the Harlem pin he dropped, looking like a man who studied the syllabus and is showing up for the makeup exam. Fourth moving piece, the mother-in-law factor, the career timeline, and the financial calculation that nobody is putting on the table even though it is sitting right there in plain sight. Let me break each one down, and then let me show you the thread that ties them all together, because once you see the pattern you cannot unsee it. The catch is, this is not a random sequence of events. This is a strategy and somebody is running plays. Let me start with the domestic violence drama because that is where Cardi B chose to plant her flag this week, and the way Cardi B swung tells you a lot about the temperature in her camp. A blogger floated the idea that Cardi B had been on the receiving end of physical harm, with a specific and ugly detail about a tooth being knocked out. I want to pause and say this plainly. Wishing domestic violence on anybody is reckless. It is not a clever angle, it is not a punchline. It is a real-world calamity that ruins real-world lives, and floating it as gossip currency is one of the lowest moves a commentator can make. If somebody actually believes a woman is in danger, the move is not a tweet, not a thumbnail, it is a phone call to the proper authorities. Drive past the mansion, knock on the gate, make the welfare check, do the work. Do not turn somebody's potential trauma into weekend content. That said, Cardi B did not let that whisper marinate. She went straight on a live stream and she lit the kerosene. She said, in essence, why are you lying about this? She said nobody put a hand on her. She said her smile has been the same for years and she invited the blogger to go ahead and post the date, post the proof, post the timeline, anything at all. She also called out the same blogger for what she described as discussions involving photographs of her infant son, which she labeled as twisted and disgusting, and that is a separate accusation that deserves its own moment of weight. Because once children enter the chat, the conversation is no longer about adults and their messes. Cardi B welcomed her child with Stefon Diggs in November, and that baby has nothing to do with anybody's commentary economy. But here is the part that made the whole denial wobble a little, and I want to walk you through it carefully because this is where the script Cardi B is reading from has a typo. She started off by saying nobody ever laid a finger on her. Strong, clean, complete denial. Then, in the very same breath, she pivoted into a story about her childhood. She said her father never put a hand on her mother. She said even when her mother used to swing on her father in front of the kids, her father walked away. And then she landed on the sentence that contradicted the opening. She said that is one thing she would never tolerate in her life again. Again. That single word does a lot of work. Again implies a previous time. Again implies that something happened before that she is now refusing to revisit. So which is it? Did nothing ever happen, or did something happen that she is closing the door on for good? You cannot have both, and the algorithm of public attention will absolutely pick up on the wobble. And of course, the natural follow-up question is, which of the men in Cardi B's life is the again pointing at? Is the again pointing backwards at Offset, the ex-husband, the man whose name has been attached to her drama since the beginning? Or is the again pointing at Stefon Diggs, the current chapter, who is already drowning in his own civil and criminal headaches? Multiple plaintiffs have lined up against Stefon Diggs with claims that range from inappropriate physical contact to allegations of orchestrating physical contact through third parties. I am not the judge, I am not the jury, but those filings exist, and the public is reading them. So when she says again, the audience does the math whether she wants the math done or not. Two-of-a-kind energy, that is the unfortunate undertone, and she has to know the optics. The Jade nightclub situation from a while back still lives in people's memories, and there is a faint pattern of moments where confrontations seem to spring up around her without her physically being at the center. I am not making an accusation. I am noting the texture. Texture matters because the audience reads texture. So what does she do next? She pivots. She slides from the domestic violence denial directly into a defense of the Christmas situation that nobody asked her to relitigate. And that pivot, that is the moment I want everybody to circle in red ink, because the pivot itself is the tell. Folks, when somebody answers a question you did not ask, it is usually because the answer to the question you actually asked is uncomfortable. So instead of going further down the again rabbit hole, she reopened the Christmas file, and she did it in a way that completely rewrote what the original conversation was about. Let me refresh your memory, because the original Christmas moment was a whole event. Right before the new year, the rap star hopped on a live and basically begged her fanbase to calm down. She said the audience had been dragging her for 3 or 4 days straight, that the tone had crossed a line, that she could not go back in time, that she could not put her baby back where the baby came from, that she could not leave her man and pick somebody else's, and that the only direction available to her was forward. She talked about the tour rehearsals, 10 to 12 hours a day away from her babies, the production elements she was missing, the support system she needed, and she pleaded with them not to drag her, to come to the tour and enjoy themselves with her. She wished them health and money and prosperity, and then she signed off. Side note, that moment did not sound like vintage Cardi B. Vintage would have called her audience by their government names. The fact that she went soft, that she went almost diplomatic, that she leaned into the gratitude language told me her label had a conversation with her. Somebody in that boardroom looked at the tour calendar, looked at the projected gross, looked at the $70 million number, and said, please, please, please do not torch the audience that is about to fund the next quarter. And she, who is many things but is not financially careless, decided to play nice for one cycle. That is not a critique. That is a strategy. Anybody pulling that kind of revenue would do the same calculation. But what was she actually apologizing about? That is where the rewrite begins. In her newest commentary, Cardi B framed the Christmas controversy as if the audience had been attacking her for one specific reason, and one reason only, that Stefon Diggs spent the holiday with his other children at his own home, and she did not show up with their newborn. She defended that arrangement at length. She said if a man has multiple kids and he has the holidays off, and he cannot travel because of his obligations, then of course he stays home and spends Christmas with his kids. She said she had her own set of children to focus on, and she was not going to bring her other 3 kids into somebody else's house where other things were going on. She said the next day, Stefon Diggs came by and dropped off $300,000 worth of gifts for the baby, so everything was fine and balanced. Folks, I have to push back because that was never the issue. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was dragging Stefon Diggs for being a father to his existing children. The audience was not anti-fatherhood. The audience was not anti-Christmas. The audience was not running a campaign against a man buying presents for his kids. The original storm was about something else entirely, and she knows it. The original storm was about the very crowded matrix of women who keep being attached to Stefon Diggs. The original storm was about a chef, about other co-parents, about a swirl of names that kept appearing in the wider conversation. The original storm was about the optics of a brand new bond between the two of them being introduced to the public while that swirl was still actively spinning. Rewriting the storm as a fatherhood debate is a magician's trick. Misdirect the audience to the wrong hand and hope they forget what the other hand was doing. And by the way, the $300,000 gift line, I have to sit with that one for a second. We are talking about a woman who has built an empire. A woman whose net worth has been reported in territory where $300,000 is a tax line, not a grand gesture. So when she frames a gift package at that level as the proof of devotion, the optics get strange because the math does not match the messaging. A man giving a multimillionaire a gift that she could write off as a Tuesday expense is not really the romantic flex that the narrative is trying to sell. That, more than anything, is how the original Offset arc started. The wealth gap, the gift theater, the public displays of affection that doubled as public displays of accounting. I am not saying the same movie is playing twice. I am noting that the trailer looks awfully familiar. She then went into the part where she said the other mothers had no reason to come at her, because she had never bothered them, never spoken on them, never even followed them on any platform, never picked a fight, never lit a match. And listen, that is a clean answer if you take it at face value. The catch is, the public was not waiting for those women to come at Cardi B. The public was waiting for somebody to explain why he kept showing up next to women who were not his current partner in the first place. The geometry of the criticism was never aimed at the women. The geometry was always aimed at the man at the center. Once again, she reframed the question to make herself the answer. Now, let me move to moving piece number 3, the Harlem moment, because this might be the most strategically loud thing Stefon Diggs has done in months, and almost nobody is talking about it the right way. Stefon Diggs, on his own social media, on his main page, on his own stories, planted a geotag that said Harlem. He put the location stamp right across his face like a watermark. Folks, that is not an accident. That is not a man casually existing in a neighborhood. That is a flare gun. Harlem is her territory. Harlem is the symbolic home base. Harlem is the address on the love letter. Putting that geotag in that font, in that placement with that timing, is the visual equivalent of standing under a window with a boombox. He is not lost. He is calling. Now why is he calling? Let me lay out the calculation in plain terms. He is a professional wide receiver in the back half of his physical prime. Realistically, he has 3 to 4 years of high-level on-field productivity left, maybe 5 if the body holds. After that, the field income stops and everything else has to carry the weight. Endorsements, hosting gigs, acting auditions, brand partnerships, equity plays. The post-career economy is brutal. The graveyard of retired athletes looking for work is enormous, and a lot of those names were great players. Great in the box score does not equal great at the negotiating table. What separates the athletes who land soft from the athletes who scramble is the platform they walk away with, and the platform is built during the playing career, not after. Who is one of the most magnetic platforms a modern athlete could attach to? Cardi B, a Grammy winner, a festival headliner, a meme generator. Walking into the post-career marketplace with that name on your arm is not a relationship. It is a marketing arrangement with romantic packaging. I am not saying that is the entire reason Stefon Diggs is pursuing her, because human feelings are real and complicated, but I am saying any analyst who ignores the financial gravity of that pairing is not analyzing seriously. Stefon Diggs needs her more than she needs him. The arithmetic could not be more obvious. Add to that the mother factor. Stefon Diggs has been publicly cooked by his own mother, who has not been quiet about her opinions, who has called him out by name, who has questioned his choices and his character in venues that the entire internet can read. When the woman who raised you is publicly working against your reconciliation campaign, you have a fire on 2 fronts. You have to convince the public and you have to convince the family, and in the middle of all that you have to convince your former partner to look at the door again. That is a heavy plate. So you do what he is doing. You stay visible. You stay persistent. You drop the Harlem pin. You let the streets do the marketing for you. Here is the Offset overlay. Stefon Diggs is running the same play that Offset ran. Offset for years made persistence his love language. Offset showed up. Offset wrote letters. Offset stood in stadiums. Offset turned the apology tour into an art form. And every time she tried to close the chapter, Offset pried it back open with public romance theater. Stefon Diggs studied that game film because anybody in his position would have. When a man wants a woman badly enough, and the previous owner of that affection left a playbook on the table, the next guy reads it. He is reading. He is highlighting. He is taking notes. And the Harlem geo-tag was the first quiz of the new semester. Let me now zoom out because the whole reason this storyline is so sticky is that everything is happening at once. The domestic violence rumor, the Christmas rewrite, the Harlem pin, the maternal blowback, the post-career calculus, the tour rehearsals, the $70 million payday on the horizon. Every single one of these threads pulls on every other thread. Cardi B is not just defending herself against a blogger. She is calibrating an entire ecosystem. She is calibrating the public, the label, the children, the past, and the future. The denial about the tooth, the framing of Christmas, the silence about Harlem, all of it is one orchestra. The conductor is somebody we cannot see, but the music is unmistakable. And the question that keeps circling back to me is, what does she want the public to believe right now? Because if she truly wanted to close the chapter on her ex, the cleanest move would be silence. Silence is the loudest breakup statement a celebrity can issue. Silence starves the algorithm of new content. Silence forces the other party to scream into a void. But she is not choosing silence. She is choosing volume. She is choosing live streams. She is choosing the curated street footage of her looking incredible around the city. She is choosing to address the blogger, address the Christmas, address the mothers, address the again. And every time she chooses volume, she keeps the door propped open just enough for Stefon Diggs to put his foot in the frame. Now, I want to be fair to Cardi B for a moment, because she has earned a layer of grace from anybody who watched the previous chapter. What she walked through during the Offset years from the outside looking in, had every hallmark of a relationship that ran on cycles of pain and performance. I am not the therapist, I am not in their home, I am not in their text threads, but the patterns the public saw were not subtle. Offset, by his own admissions across years of interviews and lyrics, has been a man of many vices. There were gambling stories. There were infidelity stories. There were absence stories. There were online apology campaigns followed by quiet relapses. Cardi B, raising children and protecting a career, and trying to maintain her sanity through that storm earned her the right to choose her own pace going forward. So when I push back on the current narrative, I am not pushing back on her as a person. I am pushing back on the rewriting of the storyline, because rewriting the storyline does not serve her long-term. The clarity does. Here is the clarity. Stefon Diggs was not dragged for being a Christmas dad. Stefon Diggs was dragged for the wider geometry of his romantic life. He was dragged because the public believed, rightly or wrongly, that the relationship with Cardi B was being conducted while other relationships were still humming in the background. He was dragged because a chef's name kept floating to the surface. Stefon Diggs was dragged because the chronology of overlapping mothers was confusing to the public, and human beings hate confusion. He was dragged because a single tweet about a potential seventh mother of a child landed in the timeline and detonated. That tweet alone forced her onto a live stream to correct the record about the number being 6, not 7, which, by the way, is one of the wildest sentences I have ever written, because the correction itself is alarming. Imagine the version of your life where the public scoreboard for your partner reads 6, and you have to clarify that the actual number is 6, not 7, like you are arguing about a tax bracket. That is the energy. So if the original drag was about the wider geometry, why is she suddenly defending the narrow geometry? Why is she defending the singular act of Stefon Diggs being a present father on Christmas Day, when nobody was challenging him on that ground in the first place? The answer, in my read, is that the wider geometry is unwinnable. The wider geometry has too many witnesses, too many timestamps, too many cross-reference photographs. So you redirect to the narrow geometry because the narrow geometry is a fight you can win. You cannot defend the matrix. You can defend the holiday. So the holiday becomes the headline, and the matrix gets quietly tucked under the carpet. And the audience is smart. The audience may forgive, the audience may move on, but the audience does not forget. The minute Stefon Diggs walks into another room with another woman, the matrix headlines come right back. The minute another civil filing lands on the docket, the matrix headlines come right back. The minute his mother goes live with another sermon, the matrix headlines come right back. Cardi B is doing important short-term reputation management, but the long-term variables are still on the field, and none of them have walked off. Another thread that does not get enough oxygen: the children. Cardi B has children with Offset, and Cardi B has a baby with Stefon Diggs who is only weeks into life. The first chapter of that baby's existence is being conducted on live streams, in tabloid headlines, in blogger commentary, in podcast roundtables, in deep dives like this one. That is the environment that child is being born into. And it is not lost on me how disorienting that has to be for everybody involved. When Cardi B got upset about the blogger discussing photographs of her son, she was not being precious, she was being a mother. That is one of the few moments in the entire arc where I will say full stop, Cardi B is correct. The babies are not the story. The babies are not the angle. Anybody platforming images of an infant for engagement is making a choice that they will have to answer for, and the answer will not age well. But here is the contradiction inside the contradiction. The same news cycle that demands the babies be left out of the story is the same news cycle that runs on the existence of the babies as plot devices. The newborn is the reason the Christmas timeline matters. The baby is the reason the holiday split became a referendum. The baby is the reason the $300,000 in gifts is a footnote anybody is even talking about. The same machine that should leave the babies alone is the machine that monetizes the babies' birthdays. That is the contradiction of celebrity coverage in 2026. And nobody, including the people writing this script, is fully clean of it. We can do better, but pretending we are above the dynamic is dishonest. Let me also slide in a thought about the legal cloud hanging over Stefon Diggs, because the public is treating it like background noise and it really is not. Multiple plaintiffs in active filings represent multiple potential timelines where his career, his endorsement portfolio, and his public standing could shift overnight. Civil cases do not move at the speed of a news cycle. They grind. They generate depositions. They produce documents that, when released, become content goldmines for every commentary channel from here to next December. Every single one of those filings is a potential headline waiting to detonate, and she, by choosing to publicly link herself back to Stefon Diggs through these defenses and Christmas rewrites, is also choosing to be in the splash zone when one of those filings makes news. That is not a small choice. That is a reputational bet with no insurance policy attached. And let me talk about the tour, because the tour is the elephant in the room that nobody is sizing up correctly. A $70 million projected gross is not a casual number. That is a number that has been engineered by venue contracts, sponsorship inserts, merchandise projections, and ticketing splits that all assume the central artist is in fighting shape, emotionally available to perform, and capable of selling the romance of a comeback narrative on a stage in front of tens of thousands of people every other night. If the offstage drama keeps escalating, the onstage product can suffer. We have seen this movie before, with multiple artists, where a public turbulence cycle bleeds into the live performance, and the reviews start coming back uneven. She does not have the luxury of an uneven tour right now. She has a brand to protect, a label to satisfy and a fanbase to re-energize after a long stretch of personal headlines crowding out the music conversation. Every minute she spends on a live stream defending the Christmas timeline is a minute she is not spending in a rehearsal room. Time is the resource nobody talks about, and her time is the most expensive time in the room. Then there is the question of the chef, because we have to address it directly. The chef storyline became one of the more uncomfortable strands of the past few months, with screenshots, alleged messages, and visual proximity moments that the public was not slow to compile. The chef, by name and by association, became a kind of avatar for the wider Matrix problem, and the way the chef appeared and reappeared in different framings made the entire situation harder to clean up. There is a reason the chef storyline keeps coming back like a bad chorus, and the reason is that the original explanation, whatever it was, did not fully land for the public. When the public does not feel satisfied by an explanation, the public substitutes the explanation with the loudest available theory, and the loudest available theory is usually unkind. Stefon Diggs has the right to defend himself in court, in interviews, in podcast appearances, in whatever venue his team thinks is wise. But the chef chapter is not closed in the public imagination, and pretending it is closed by changing the subject to fatherhood does not actually close it. It just postpones the conversation, and the postponement compounds interest every week. I also want to lift the mother-in-law factor up one more time, because in stories like this, the family of the man is usually a swing vote. When his mother goes public with a takedown, it does two things at once. It signals to the audience that the family is fractured, and it signals to the partner that there will be no family-side support for the reconciliation. Mothers, especially mothers of high-earning sons, rarely engage publicly unless they feel something has crossed a line that cannot be crossed back. That she went on record, that she did not edit her commentary for camera friendliness, that she said her piece in language that the internet preserved, all of that has weight. It tells Cardi B, even in a quiet moment, that even if the romance gets rebuilt, the in-law dynamic is going to be a daily project, not a one-time conversation. Some partnerships can survive that, but the survivors usually have a clear plan, and I do not see a clear plan here. I see a series of public moves designed to keep doors open, with no obvious endgame. Okay, let me move toward the climax of this story, because I think the climax is sitting right in front of us and almost everybody is missing it. The climax is not a reconciliation. The climax is not a definitive breakup. The climax is the realization that Cardi B and Stefon Diggs are now locked into a public mutual dependency arc, where each one of them needs the other one's relevance to fuel their own next move, and neither one of them can afford to be the first one to walk all the way out the door. She needs him to remain interested because his interest validates the storyline that she is the one being chosen, not the one being chased. He needs her to remain reachable, because her platform is the bridge to his post-career identity. They are not in love in the simple sense. They are in market in the complicated sense. And market relationships, as the Offset chapter taught us, do not end. They get renegotiated. That is why I do not believe this is over. I want to believe it is over for her sake, because she has been through enough cycles, but the volume she is producing tells a different story. Silence ends relationships. Volume sustains them. She is producing volume. Stefon Diggs is producing volume. The Harlem geo-tag is volume. The denial of the tooth allegation is volume. The Christmas rewrite is volume. Every act of volume is an act of reservation, holding the table for another round. Let me end on a fairness clause, because I always leave a door open for the people in the story to surprise me. Maybe she does mean it this time. Maybe the lessons from the Offset years have finally registered, and she walks into the new year as a fully solo woman, raising her children, executing her tour, banking her $70 million, and letting Stefon Diggs talk to the wind. Maybe Stefon Diggs does the unthinkable and grows up in public, addresses every civil case head-on, settles where settlements are appropriate, fights where the truth deserves a fight, and rebuilds the post-career identity on something more durable than a famous girlfriend. Maybe the babies grow up in a stable rotation between two adult households that learned how to communicate. Maybe the mother-in-law calls a truce. Maybe the chef stops appearing in screenshots. Maybe. I would love every one of those outcomes to happen because the children deserve every one of those outcomes. But maybe is not the same as probably. And probably, based on every signal currently on the radar, the next 6 months are going to look exactly like the previous 6 months with new wallpaper. Stefon Diggs will keep dropping persistence flares. The rapper will keep producing curated public visibility. The blogger ecosystem will keep mining the gap. The civil filings will keep updating. The mother will keep posting. The babies will keep growing up in a fishbowl that no consultant signed them up for. And by the time the tour kicks off, the question will not be whether they are together. The question will be whether the seat next to her at the afterparty has a nameplate on it, and what that nameplate spells. Because at the end of the day, this is the truth, the one that survives all the rewrites, all the live streams, all the geotags, and all the gift packages. Stefon Diggs needs her more than the public believes. She needs the validation of being needed more than she would ever admit. And the only thing standing between this story being a reconciliation comeback and a slow-motion repeat of the Offset chapter is whether one of them, just one of them, has the discipline to choose silence over volume for 30 consecutive days. That is the experiment that would actually change the outcome. 30 days of silence. No live streams about the rumor. No Harlem pins. No $300,000 gift reveals. No mother monologues. No chef cameos. Just 30 days of nothing. If they can do 30 days of nothing, they can do anything. If they cannot, the next chapter is already written. And we are all just waiting for the pages to turn. The smaller details still matter. The smile line argument she made about her veneers looking the same for years, that is the kind of receipt you only pull if you have spent time thinking about the optics of a denial. The challenge to the blogger to post a date, that is a courtroom quality dare. And she is not a courtroom novice given the Tasha K history. The reference to her own parents and the dynamic she grew up in, that was an unscripted window into a household that shaped how she reads conflict, and it is worth more than a punchline. The reference to walking away as the right move, that is a tell about what she wishes had happened in her own relationships, projected backwards onto a memory. Folks, the woman is processing in real time on camera, in front of a public that has not earned the right to be in the room. And we keep clicking. We keep watching. We keep replaying. That is on us too. So here is where I land after walking the whole map. The domestic violence rumor was a low blow, it deserved the pushback she gave it, and the blogger involved needs to clean up their methodology because suggesting harm against a woman is not a content strategy, it is a character flaw. The Christmas rewrite is a smart misdirection that does not survive scrutiny, because the original criticism was never about fatherhood, it was about the wider romantic geometry that the rewrite is conveniently ignoring. The Harlem pin from Stefon Diggs is a flare, not a coincidence, and any reading that pretends otherwise is reading with one eye closed. The mother-in-law, the post-career timeline, the tour revenue, the babies, the bloggers, the Offset shadow, the chef whisper, all of it is one ecosystem, and Cardi B is the only person standing at the center who has enough leverage to actually choose the next move. If she chooses Stefon Diggs again, she has to do it knowing the Matrix is going to come back, and she has to be ready to manage it without the public sympathy that carried her through the last cycle. If she chooses solitude, she has to commit to it past the discomfort of the silence, because the silence is the part nobody trains you for. And if she chooses some third path that none of us have considered yet, then good, because the women who write their own third paths are the ones who actually change the shape of these stories. I am rooting for whichever path involves the least amount of public bleeding for her, her children, and the people who orbit her. The bloggers will adapt. The algorithm will adapt. The headlines will adapt. The only person who has to live inside the consequences is her, and the only person who has to wake up next to those consequences is him. And right now, neither one of them looks fully ready for the version of the future they are auditioning for. Final thought. The next signal to watch for is not another live stream. The next signal to watch for is the next event Cardi B attends alone. If she walks into a major event in the next 45 days with no escort, no Stefon Diggs cameo, no +1 in the carousel, then the breakup language is real and the public can take her at her word. If she walks into a major event in the next 45 days and Stefon Diggs happens to be photographed within a city block, the breakup language is theater, and the reconciliation script is already in production. Watch the events. Forget the live streams. The events tell you the truth. Quick word about the audience, the silent third character in this story. The audience that is currently watching this saga unfold is the same audience that pre-saved her album, the same audience that bought the tour tickets, the same audience that defended her against the previous tabloid wave, the same audience that lit candles when she said she was tired, and the same audience that pulled receipts when she said something was true. That audience has shown up for her in ways that very few celebrities can claim, and that audience is also the audience she just asked on a Christmas live stream to please calm down. Calling that audience to calm down is a brave move and a risky move at the same time, because the audience that calms down today is the same audience that, if it feels insulted, can choose to be very quiet on the day she actually needs the noise. Audience trust is a long-term lease, not a single transaction, and the renewal clause is the part where the artist has to remember to thank the people who made the empire possible. Same warning applies to Stefon Diggs. Sports fanbases are not as forgiving as music fanbases. Music fans ride for the artist through breakups, scandals, even health crises, because the music is the contract. Sports fans are loyal to performance and exit doors quickly when off-field noise starts to dent on-field output. If the legal calendar starts to consume the playing calendar, the endorsement deals start to wobble, the contract extensions start to look uncertain, and the post-career runway shortens faster than anyone in his camp wants to admit. Every public choice Stefon Diggs makes right now, every Harlem pin, every interview, every gym selfie, every cryptic story, is being scored not just by the entertainment audience but by the football audience and the executive audience that holds the keys to his next decade. He is being graded in real time by rooms he is not invited into. Last thought, the one I want everyone to sit with, is about the children. The babies in this story did not sign up for the storyline. They did not pick the parents. They did not pick the timing. They did not pick the audience. They will grow up in a media environment where every search engine remembers everything, where every clip is rediscoverable forever, where every fight, every gift, every reconciliation, every public denial, will live in archives that they can scroll through when they are old enough to type their own names into a search bar. The adults in this equation, all of them, including the ones holding microphones, including the ones running commentary channels, including the ones platforming the bloggers, including the ones inflating the speculation, all of us have a responsibility to remember that the children are not props. Every time we forget that, we lose a little bit of the right to call ourselves the moral compass of any of these stories. I am holding myself to that standard while I write this, and I am inviting every person reading this to hold themselves to it too. Anyhow, drop your take below. Did Cardi B win this round against the blogger? Or did the again leave too big of a crack in the denial? Is Stefon Diggs running the Offset playbook on purpose, or is he just out of new ideas? Should she give it another try? Or should she finally walk into the new year alone and let the silence do the work? Tell me what you think, because I read every single one of them, even the petty ones, especially the petty ones. I will catch you in the next deep dive. Take care of yourselves out there and stay sharper than the headlines.